Yor was unlike any of the boys in Esukrom, a small village tucked away in the lush valleys of Ghana. Where others were lean and quick, Yor was plump and slow, his round figure making him stand out like a sore thumb. The villagers had never seen a boy like him. In a place where a man's worth was measured by how hard he could work in the fields or how fast he could run in the bush, Yor's size became the source of endless ridicule. The cruel nickname Yor the Elephant echoed throughout his childhood, making him shrink inward despite his large frame. Children laughed at him, women whispered behind his back, and men shook their heads in pity. Life was cruel, but Yor bore it with quiet dignity. He had no choice. Raised by Nana Yah, the village's old midwife, Yor grew up knowing little of where he came from. Nana Yah had found him as a baby, abandoned at the edge of the village under mysterious circumstances. With no family of her own, Nana Yah took him in, raising him as a son. The villagers often gossiped about Yor's origins, some claiming he was cursed, others saying he was simply unwanted. But Nana Yah loved him as her own flesh and blood, constantly reassuring him, Yor, your worth is greater than any wealth. One day, the world will see it too. But Yor couldn't escape the sting of loneliness. As he grew older, his size only seemed to attract more attention, more mockery. Women in the village scoffed at the idea of marrying him. Who would want a husband who can barely carry a goat? They'd say with disdain. The thought of having a family of his own seemed as distant as the stars to Yor, a dream that he felt might never come true. One day, while walking back from the market with heavy bags of goods, Yor stumbled and fell to the ground, the contents of his bags spilling everywhere. As the crowd laughed and shook their heads, a gentle voice caught through the noise. Here, let me help you, said a young woman named Afia, crouching down to gather the fallen items. Afia was different. She didn't laugh at Yor or sneer like the others. She was kind with a smile that reached her eyes. Afia came from a poor family herself and had her own share of struggles. She understood what it felt like to be on the outside, to be judged by others. In Yor, she saw more than just his size. She saw a kind heart and a gentle spirit. Their friendship grew, and soon love blossomed. Despite the whispers and gossip, Afia and Yor became inseparable. They would walk through the fields together, share quiet meals in Nana Yah's small hut, and talk about their dreams. Even though they had little, they found joy in each other's company. When Yor finally asked for Afia's hand in marriage, she said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was a simple affair under the shade of the village's old baobab tree, with only a few close friends and Nana Yah in attendance. The villagers watched from a distance, some with pity, others with disdain. The fat boy finally found someone, they muttered. They're both poor, they deserve each other, but Yor and Afia didn't care. They had each other, and that was enough. For the first time in his life, Yor felt like he truly belonged to someone, that he was seen and valued for who he was, not what he looked like. One fateful afternoon, a stranger arrived in Esukrom, riding a horse and dressed in fine clothes that no one in the village had ever seen. He carried himself with authority and purpose, asking the villagers about a boy who had been abandoned in the village years ago. The villagers were curious, but they couldn't make sense of the man's questions. That is until the stranger found his way to Nana Ya's hut. The man sat with Yor and Nana Ya, explaining that he was from Twekrom, a neighboring village with a royal lineage. The king of Twekrom had lost his son over 2 decades ago during a violent raid by enemies. The royal child had disappeared without a trace, and despite years of searching, no one had ever found him until now. The stranger held out an ancient pendant engraved with royal symbols. Yor's eyes widened as he recognized the same pendant he had worn since childhood. A piece of jewelry he had always thought was just a trinket. Nana Ya's face grew pale as the stranger's words sank in. She had always wondered where Yor came from, and now, after all these years, the truth was revealed. Yor was no ordinary boy. He was the long-lost prince of Twekrom, the heir to the throne. The revelation left Yor stunned. How could this be? How could the boy who had been mocked and scorned for his size, the boy who had been abandoned and left to fend for himself, be the rightful prince of a kingdom? Seemed impossible. But the truth was undeniable. The pendant, along with the stranger's proof, confirmed Yor's royal bloodline. Yor was filled with disbelief, yet something inside him stirred, a sense of belonging he had never felt before. Afia, who had stood by his side through every hardship, smiled gently and took his hand. "It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are," she whispered. "You are still the man I love." Soon after, Yor and Afia journeyed to Twekrom, where the royal family awaited the return of their long-lost son. The kingdom erupted in celebration, drums beating and villagers cheering as Yor, now Prince Yor, was welcomed with open arms. He was dressed in royal robes, his crown placed upon his head in a grand ceremony. Afia, standing proudly by his side, became Queen Afia, the woman who had always seen Yor's true worth, long before anyone else did. Despite his new status, Yor never forgot the village that had shaped him. He returned to Esukrom often, visiting Nana Ya and remembering the lessons he had learned through his struggles. As king of Twekrom, Yor ruled with kindness and compassion, never forgetting the boy he had once been, the boy who was mocked for his size but had a heart big enough to rule a kingdom. The story of Yor, the lost prince of Twekrom, became legend throughout the land. And the moral? Never underestimate anyone. Life can change in the blink of an eye. The boy you mock today may be the king you bow to tomorrow. If you enjoy the lost prince of Esukrom and its powerful message of resilience and destiny, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what inspired you most. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss more amazing African stories like this. Your support helps us keep these timeless tales alive. Thank you for being a part of our storytelling community.